The incident with the process server in Chicago and the notorious Rome walkout were the first round of scandals that would eventually erode the career and self-confidence of Maria Callas. In 1957, a new opera company was founded in Dallas, Texas, by Nicola Rescigno and Lawrence Kelly, Callas's associates from the Chicago Opera Company. As Rescigno recalls,
Larry and I had a big fight with Carl Fox, and as they say in Italian, God closes a door, but he opens a window. And in this case, the window was Dallas Civic Opera. And the other very positive aspect of this fight was that Maria eventually sided with us and Aunt Carol, so she decided to come to Dallas, and we launched our beginnings.
Callas appeared in Dallas in a new Zeffirelli production of La Traviata, sang the final Lucias of her career, and gave her only American performances of Medea. During Callas' second season in Dallas, negotiations were going on with Rudolph Bing concerning her return to the Met, but Callas was unhappy with the Met's scheduling of alternating Traviatas with Macbeth, operas that demanded almost different voices. Bing gave her an ultimatum, which she, deep in rehearsals for Medea, ignored. Fed up, he sent her a telegram canceling her contract.
Maria Callas isn't fired. Maria Callas is severed.
That night, she came to the theater looking like an empress. She wore a ermine thing that draped to the floor, and she had every piece of jewelry she ever owned. She said, you all know what's happened. Tonight, for me, is a very difficult night, and I will need the help of every one of you. Well, she proceeded to give a performance that was historical. We had press from all over the world that night. They started right after the performance in her dressing room. Madame Callas, how do you feel about Mr. Bing's action? And these interviews really, literally went on until 4 in the morning.
We started quarreling involuntarily on my side, of course, because... No, I didn't think, of course, it was a quarrel. I just refused the next year's contract because he offered me the old repertoire, that is the old Norma staging. Barbara Seville, Traviata, Lucia, and I said, no, I'm sorry, I cannot do routine. I want new performances, staged well. You know, like here, like a little young Dallas is doing, my God. I suppose that made him angry. I don't know. I mean, I can't explain it otherwise.
20 years later, in 1978, Rudolph Bing recalled the incident.
Well, it was just a question. Does she run the Met or do I run the Met? And at that time, perhaps very wrongly, I felt that I was running the Met. I mean, obviously, Callas was treated. Kid glove is an understatement. Every wish she had, and they were usually reasonable, but occasionally she became just intolerable. So eventually the moment came when I had to say, sorry, contract cancelled. Was she that much more difficult than other artists? The answer is yes. And I think mainly because she was that much more intelligent. With most artists, you could argue, but eventually you could get them around, so to speak. Callas, you couldn't get around. She knew exactly what she wanted, and she knew why she wanted it. And that made things very difficult.
Maria was a little bit of an egomaniac, which was sometimes difficult to take. Professionally, she was difficult because she was a perfectionist, and she expected of others the same degree of preparation that she brought to a performance. But personally, Maria had many, many insecurities. I think a lot of it was due to her childhood, her relationship with her mother, the rivalry with her sister, who was Mama's favorite, and she was like the ugly duckling.
Though Bing kept her out of the Met in 1959, he didn't keep her out of New York. With the Met dates now free, Callas accepted an invitation from New York's American Opera Society to sing a concert performance in Carnegie Hall of Bellini's Il Pirata. Rescigno was the conductor.
There was a finale of an act, and I took this really fast tempo. When Maria heard it for the first time, she just, looked at me, said, how am I going to manage this? I went after her, I said, Maria, I said, I know that there are those 8 bars. I said, but I know where I can put on the brakes a little bit so that you can get through the phrase. She said, Nicola, shame on you. And I said, excuse me, I'm trying to help. She said, I want to be helped. She said, I love that tempo. It's very exciting. Are you convinced that it's good tempo? And I said, yes. She said, well, you then conduct it that way and mind your own business. She never made it. In all the rehearsals, she got to that point and like fudge would come out, or marshmallows. And the night of the performance, we did not have a singer there. We had a machine gun.
summer of 1959, Callas and her husband were invited by the Greek shipping tycoon Aristotle Onassis to join him on his yacht, the Christina, for a cruise with Winston Churchill. At the beginning of the trip, the press focused on Churchill. By the time it was over, the attention had shifted to Onassis and Callas. A few months later, Callas and Meneghini separated. At New York's Kennedy Airport, Callas was besieged by reporters for details of her romance with Onassis.
I'm giving no interview.
The only reason why did you cut short your trip?
Please.
Are you going to marry Mr.
I said don't. I'm not answering any interview. Now stop it.
Are you glad to be back in New York? That's an uncontroversial question.
Well, I'm happy I'm not staying more, if that's what you mean.
Why is that?
Why not?
Because we're bothering?
Because I'm leaving, my God. Use your mind a bit.
Are you going to sing in the Met again?
I hope so.
You do hope to come back to the Met?
No, not this year.
You may not with Mr. Bing?
No more fights. I'm sorry for you, Jeff.
Do you expect to sing next season?
We don't know yet.
What are you hoping to sing?
I can't say anything else.
Do you hope this trip in Italy will end this romantic squabble that everyone's been predicting?
This is no romantic squabble. It's a separation.
Many people have condemned Meneghini, but artistically speaking, Maria functioned as an artist because it was just the house and the theater. With the advent of Onassis, it gave Maria something that as a woman she had never known before. When Onassis wooed a woman, it was like an emperor wooing a goddess. Planes were put at your disposal, boats. I remember having dinner with both of them many times in Paris. You'd walk into these famous restaurants, everybody would be on their knees. It was the best that that type of life could offer. On the other hand, I must admit, it was the beginning of her downfall. And I think that she would have been, as an artist, much better off had she never met Onassis.
Legally separated from Meneghini, Callas began a 9-year relationship with Onassis, in which she began to fulfill herself as a woman. But the artist suffered. For 2 years there were no operatic performances, only a handful of concerts. During an engagement in London, she was asked during an interview,
"Would you yourself like to go away, say, for 2 years and not sing at all?"
I'm afraid that will happen in about a year. After that, I'm afraid I will give up singing, if not completely, at least very rarely I will sing. Only in occasions that will be worth my while, because I really feel that I'm wasting my energy just for the sake of celebrity, which I think and feel I have obtained, even maybe too much. So, as I said, I feel a duty to myself and to art to work the least possible and the better possible. And I'm really serious about this.
In 1963, Franco Zeffirelli went to Callas's Paris apartment to persuade her to appear in a new production of Tosca, which he was designing and directed for London's Covent Garden.
The first thing I noticed were the long nails of her beautiful hands, and I realized that they were the nails of fingers had never touched the keyboard of a piano for at least 2 years. And I told her that. I said, "I'm very sorry, because obviously you haven't been practicing your voice." She said, "How do you know it?" I said, "Look at your fingernails." I looked at them and made a beautiful gesture with her hands, like a little girl, and she said, "Yes, you are right. I am trying to fulfill my life as a woman. But now I want to go back to the stage."
Renato Cionni was Cavaradossi.
Maria really gave a memorable, definitive interpretation of Tosca. She didn't play it as a prima donna approaching the character as another prima donna. She played it as a woman with all the marvelous human values that she could so vividly portray on stage. The tenderness, the weakness, the love, the violence, the jealousy, all the beautiful things that she as a Greek woman could find in her own authentic nature.
It's a little bit my idea of a grand guignol. The first act, for instance, you cope with a woman that really is, if not hysterical, nervous. So that is why she comes in and out, and she's anxious and a nuisance also, rather. And all she was really interested was in finding her Cavaradossi.
In these performances, the role of Scarpia was sung by the baritone many critics considered Callas's equal, Tito Gobbi.
With Maria, I was Scarpia and she was Tosca. And that is the difference. I have been singing this role with so many sopranos, with all the sopranos in my time, and everyone has a good interpretation. But Maria was never Maria, was Tosca on stage. One day, during a rehearsal, she was running towards Scarpia. She arrived to my chest and she started beating my chest, Nanaver. And so I catch her hands and I open her arm like this, like crucifying her. And that was a wonderful sensation. It was really like crucifying Tosca. And she asked me to do it again next performance.
Her return to the stage also coincided with a new series of recordings. Callas had always been a prolific artist in the studio, but now even recording was difficult, given her mounting vocal problems.
Michel Glotz, by this time, was in charge. She wanted to go home. He said, just let's have some coffee, let's talk about something else, but don't leave. So we asked what they had been recording. And he said, oh, yesterday we had a session with Crespin and Pretre, and they were supposed to do the Aida aria of Ritorna Vincitor. Maria very coyly put on a little girl act. She says, could I listen to some of it? And he said, sure. And Maria became more and more indignant. She felt that piece of music had been betrayed. She said, Nicola, but what are they doing? But what is George doing? I mean, these tempi. She said, I remember when I used to prepare these things and study them with Maestro Serafin, that opening recitativo. She said, I couldn't spit out the words fast enough to suit him. Nicola, let's show them. Is the music still here? And they said, oh, yes, of course, here it is. Well, she said, put it on the stands and let's show them how it should be done.
Vincitor
Callas's triumph as Tosca in London led to a new Callas-Zeffirelli collaboration, a production of Norma in Paris later the same year. The part of Poglione was sung by tenor Gianfranco Cecchili. During the Paris performances, Callas and Bing met and made up. Callas agreed to return to the Metropolitan Opera in March 1965 as Tosca. The performances, her first in New York in 8 years, were sold out in a matter of hours, and people stood in line for 4 days for standing room.
Only for her would I do this. Nobody else. She's the greatest.
What's so great about her?
She's the only star in opera today who has, real glamour. She's a real star in every sense of the word. She's a great actress. She's a great singer. She's a fabulous personality, I think it's a shame that she hasn't been here, and now that she has agreed to come back, I think to miss her would be really a crime. This woman is undoubtedly the greatest singer of this century.
Callas's first entrance set off an ovation that brought the performance to a halt.
I was told that they loved me. Before I went back, I really sincerely tell you I was terrified. I didn't want to, and I was trying to find excuses not to go. But as soon as I came out and the applause started enormously, one thing I was happy about it, but the first thing I wasn't, because it stops the entrance of Tosca, which could be a very nice part of music, though I knew it would happen, but to such an extent I never thought.
After a second series of Normas in Paris, Callas returned to London for a single Tosca on July 5th, 1965. It proved to be her final performance in opera and her last public appearance for 8 years. In 1966, Callas gave up her American citizenship.
And are you taking your Greek citizenship back?
I've already taken my Greek citizenship.
What is the reason behind this, Madame Callas?
Well, the real reason I can even say it is that I am a free woman with the Greek law, who is not married after 1946 in church, is not married. So you understand?
I understand completely. And now, do you have any intention to marry Mr. Onassis?
Oh, well, those are not questions to... No, right now I'm a free woman. I'm very happy to be so. That is why I had to give up this American citizenship, unfortunately.
The marriage of Callas and Onassis never took place. Rescigno explains.
His hobby was collecting famous women. When a woman came along that was more famous than Maria, he dropped Maria. And it was a great tragedy for Maria, because I really think Maria loved him very sincerely. So that when she was abandoned by Onassis, I think it was the big crisis in her life. Maria was never the same again.
In the summer of 1968, Lawrence Kelly found Callas in the American hospital in Paris, where she had tried to take her life after Onassis ended their affair. Kelly insisted Callas return to America with him before the announcement of Onassis' impending marriage to Jacqueline Kennedy. Emotionally, this was a trying time for Callas, who felt betrayed and vulnerable. In Dallas, she looked back over her life and poured out her hurt and her deepest feelings as a woman and as an artist to music critic John Ardoin.
Maria was sort of left in my care for prima donna sitting, shall we say. And we became very, very close in that period. We spent every day together. We'd go shopping to the grocery store, to the drugstore, to buy her astrology magazines, which she liked, or to take her to movies. And during that time, I asked Maria if I could tape an hour interview for a radio program that I was doing in Dallas.
Being honest is a hell of a price to pay. You might be, as I have found out, frequently misunderstood, hated, attacked. And I have not been able to fight back. It hurts. You hate it because it is unjust. The world is full of unjustness. And then, my Lord, if you realize that I'm a woman, and by woman I mean a woman with all her weaknesses, I mean, I'm undefended. I've been undefended all my life. On the other hand, if people love you, why do they love you? Not because I sang a beautiful aria or a note. What am I? Is she only a machine for singing? No. She's a human being. I need help, too. Life, they say, is terrible. Of course life is terrible if we make it that way. Life is hard. Of course it's hard. And I like to, sort of sit back and enjoy my celebrity and money. But on the other hand, I can't. I've got to help myself. Since I was a child, I knew I had to help myself.
So we came over and we did it. It was very straightforward. It was talk about musical matters and about how she creates a part and studies it and what have you.
There's only one standard to everything. You have to be a musician. You're a singer. You have to know your music. You've got to be equipped to do your job. So what is extraordinary about what I'm doing? Nothing. Well, wait a minute. Let's look into this case instead of jumping to conclusions so quickly, which are so easy. Look at her record. What is this? So many cancellations. So many performances. She inaugurated so many theaters. She did that. She did that. She has been attacked by her mother, and she has never said one single word in her defense. Nobody thought, though, when they tear me down, how is this woman feeling? How is she taking it? Is there anybody to hold her hand? It must be hell. Of course it's hell. And then you have to go sing. No one has thought, in the meantime, of this poor human being, or great human being, because I'm not poor, because I have so much good sense that it hurts. But on the other hand, when you work, it would be so nice to be able to come home and have a nice, honest shoulder to lean on. I had hoped that of my husband. I was so wrong, because glory went to his head. Glory goes to people's head, not my head. Glory terrifies me, because you're quite uncomfortable up there. But other people around you, they get drunk. It's a wine that goes to the head. You know who takes care of me and who I know will always be there? My maid. Who adores me, idealizes me, and has been a nurse, sister, and mother to me. The revolution happened now in Paris. Do you think my parents scold, or my sister? Not once. So what do we have? 4 homes, isolated. Mine and 3 of theirs. Miserably alone. At least I've accomplished something. But why should I have accomplished something? And why should I now be alone at home? Whether we all should be 4 of us, one helping the other.
What I think was happening that afternoon in Dallas was a sort of catharsis. Maria seemed to have this pressing need to verbally settle a lot of old professional and personal scores.
Can you go and tell them what? That I am a human being, that I have my fears, and that I have my hopes, and that I have this and I have that, when they see you sparkling under the lights and they, see you well-dressed and all that, that irritates people also because you will not show yourself sugary and all that. Why? It's undignified. Oh, it's very easy that newspapers say, oh, that terrible Callas gained so much money in one evening. Oh, she is a capricious so. But it's not so. With Bing, did he have to go and say, oh, she's an impossible person? Why? I'm quite sure he's met so many other impossible people. He just completely got even with me for all the things that he could not get even with other people. That is what I call bad destiny. I was unlucky. Because my other colleagues have really hurt him much more. That's why he respects me, and he really, sincerely, I'm sure, loves me. But he's a weak man. I suppose I pay the consequences of so many other, like a glass that fills up, and I was the thing that filled his glass up.
Obsessively, she returned to the subject of Onassis. And I remember her saying, how could a man be so cruel? And then she broke down and started crying. It was a very embarrassing moment for me. I didn't know what to do. I took her in my arms, where she stayed for just a moment, and then she pushed herself away and went to the bathroom to wash her face and pull herself together. To my great surprise, when she came out, she said, have you got another reel of tape? And I said, sure. She said, well, put it on.
For 9 years, you've been living a hidden life and a humiliating life for a person like I am, and you're not cured in 2 months. And I don't have that much time to get cured. Next year, I've got to sing somehow or another. I don't care at what price. I've given up a hell of a career. And it's too easy to say, oh, thank you very much. For 8 years, 9 years, we did our best to be happy. Oh, ain't that sweet, as they say vulgarly. So easy to say no resentment. Sure, Christianity says you must forgive, you must be no resentment. I don't have resentment, but I have hurt. How can I get rid of that? One last cigarette and you drive me home?
In public, however, Callas told a different story when it came to her life with Onassis.
I left him of my own accord. We both agreed to that. Because we loved each other maybe too much. No regrets. Oh, no. Otherwise, I would have married him. I had every occasion. I would be happy to see him happy under any circumstances. And if he's happy with Jackie, I'm more than happy for him. I had a lover, that's that.
Now alone, Callas desperately felt the need to regain the identity she had lost during the years with Onassis. She was afraid to return to the stage, and a recording session in 1969 confirmed how great her insecurities as a singer had become. Again, Rashinya was a conductor.
I remember with great anguish those last sessions. The voice had deteriorated. She knew it, and she couldn't recapture certain of the things. They were glimmers of greatness. She would try to do something, and it wouldn't. Many times couldn't succeed. Other times we got close to it, and it was like seeing a giant fall.
Unable to sing, but needing to be active artistically, Callas undertook her only film, a retelling of the Medea legend for director Pier Paolo Pasolini.
Medea is something very hard to resist because it is a very strong role, and any actress would really enjoy a thing like that. I have been offered frequent roles in films, and for a debut I've been very cautious because, you know, if you sort of have a failure, you've had it, as they say, so you can't make mistakes.
Ancora! Sergio? L'acqua. Camillo, serve l'acqua.
At best, the Medea film had a moderate success. It did not lead to the screen career Callas might have hoped for.
Sure, you must be very nervous. I know all that. Who would rather stand up and sing? But I don't know, but
Still terrified of singing in public, she taught an extended series of master classes at the Juilliard School of Music, coaching young professionals in matters of style and in the musical traditions she had learned from her teachers and musicians such as Tullio Serafin and Victor de Sabata.
My daughter is the only treasure of mine. So, when you reach mia figlia in pagavi il tesoro, la rindici, o se pure ti salvata. Keep on. Very swift, eh? It's very tragic. You must take it. Forget about your, sort of your voice, but sing with it, sing the notes. But this is very dramatic. Come on, again. as soon as you get a phrase, after that, nulla in terra. Legare again, but you have to keep the drive. Do you understand it? Yes. Now, do it.
Though more successful as a teacher than as a film actress, the experience at Juilliard did not fulfill Callas artistically. During the classes, Giuseppe Di Stefano re-entered her life, but this time as a lover. Together they directed a production of Verdi's I Vespri Siciliani in Turin, and with him she undertook a recording of operatic duets. The results, however, were a major disappointment, and the disc remains unreleased. Nevertheless, urged on by Di Stefano, she agreed to join him in a world concert tour. It began in Germany in the fall of 1973.
Naturally, the voice is not what it used to be 20 years ago. Nobody pretends that. The audience knows that. I know it. But you can be even more than what you were 20 years ago. You can be more of a musician, more passionate. Many, many things that are better.
Che vuoi tu dire a Francofante? Santuzza credimi, Santuzza credimi. Siri, viviti volgere giù del sentire. Questa mattina all'alba t'hanno scorto presso l'uscio di Lola. Hanno ispirato. Te lo giuro.
There were many in the press, however, who felt that the tour was a grave mistake. One such critic was Martin Bernheimer of the Los Angeles Times.
She was very lovely, very charming, very gracious. The voice, I think, was really shot. The vibrato was almost totally out of control. The timbre was dull and thin. The high notes were very dangerous. What few she sang, she very carefully selected the repertoire to avoid singing anything very high. And yet the biggest disappointment for me was not that she sang badly, but that this great singing actress couldn't convey anything dramatically. Here she was stripped of drama, coming out on the stage doing a naked concert, and doing it with very formal manners. She came out and did the habanera from Carmen. And the oldest cliche of all, she came out, this great singing actress, came out and put her hands on her hips and swayed a little bit and sang the notes and the words. The people who loved her and who knew her wanted her so badly to be able to do it one more time. So there was almost a feverish, hysterical vitality in that house, but there was no fooling anyone about what we were hearing and seeing.
マリア・カラスさんがアンコール曲を歌います。ジャンニス・キッキの娘ラウレッタが。
It was in Japan on November 11th, 1974, that the tour ended, and Callas sang for the last time in public. The next year, Onassis died, and with him, something died in Callas as well. Shortly thereafter, she broke with Di Stefano.
I often wonder, will I ever really be happy, or will I really pass my life always struggling to survive? I'd rather hope for the worst than have the best. If you do meet something that's good, you don't want it because you're so afraid. Because they care for 1 day, 1 month, 1 year. And then what? So my hopes have been, up to the skies and then bang down. When you're, damn it all, what does one do? Sit in the 4 walls. I've been facing 4 walls all my life. How can I go out and, sort of walk your feet off until you're so dog tired you go to bed? I'll be picked up. Beginning to think I should get a big dog and have him around. So it's the only thing.
I think Maria was not really a very happy person.
Tito Gobbi.
She had some good moments in her life, but I never saw her really happy. I remember one day in New York, I asked her for dinner with my family, my wife and my daughter, and she said she was alone, so come with dinner with us. We had a wonderful dinner, we enjoyed a lot. She was playing and acting and making fun with Cecilia, my daughter. And then when we took her to the lift of the plaza, she said, listen, I'm alone, I'm so lonely here. I have not even my little dog to keep company. Why don't you buy me another ice cream and I stay a little longer with you?
I don't think there are very many men that would like to be with me because they're afraid of me. I'm a fast thinker. They're afraid of being exposed with me. It's not easy to be a good friend of Callas.
Now, all alone, she became more and more of a recluse, unwilling to go out in public or see her friends. Giuseppe Di Stefano.
She said, ogni giorno, per fortuna, un giorno di meno. Every day, thank God, is 1 day less.
On the morning of September 16th, 1977, she suffered a massive heart attack and was dead within minutes. Callas' sister Jackie was notified in Athens.
I had a phone call from Paris the day of Maria's death. I couldn't believe it. I thought that someone was playing a joke. I didn't know how to tell it to my mother, though. Unfortunately, I didn't tell her anything. I wanted to tell her in the evening. And she always, at 6 o'clock, she turned the television, to see. And they informed that Maria died. And she telephoned me immediately. She says, did you hear the news? Is it possible that Maria died, my daughter? And she started crying, you understand? Mother, I knew it, I said, from 1 o'clock. Well, you can imagine our sorrow, my mother and I, we couldn't believe it. After 40 days, a will of Mr. Meneghini appeared, that she left all her fortune, everything to her husband. We thought it was a matter not to go in court with Mr. Meneghini, and we made an agreement 50-50. We divided what jewels Maria had. Meneghini took half, we took half, the cash money. Half Mr. Meneghini, half my mother.
Most artists are forgotten soon after they retire or die. But 10 years after Callas's death, she remains alive through her recorded performances. She continues to be a major influence, still exciting and controversial, even to a generation who never heard her in person. Why? 4 colleagues who were close to her offer these explanations. John Vickers.
There were 2 outstanding, great personalities that revolutionized the whole approach to opera after the war. The one was Wieland Wagner, as far as staging was concerned, and Maria, as far as personal interpretation, taking hold of a work, digesting it, making it a living reality for herself, and presenting it to the public.
Nicola Rescigno.
The name of Maria Callas today is stronger, I would say, than when she was alive. She serves as the example of the complete artist, and she died at an age where it's right to die, to leave a legend.
Franco Zeffirelli.
There has been perhaps only one faithful companion to Maria throughout her life, her loneliness. The price sometimes one has to pay for his glory and his success.
And Tito Gobbi.
I'm sure Callas will remain in the history for a long, long time. In 100 years, people will still talk about Maria Callas as a beautiful and unique star which was crossing the sky of opera for a rather short time, but giving light forever.